going to be part one of the mini train series. Part one is the train body, and so we'll look at the blueprints or the plans that we have here for the mini train, uh, train body, and we'll talk about a few things, and then we'll get into Inventor and start uh, drawing it. Uh, I added on on mine on my PDF document here. I added some of the common tools that you will be using for each part, or some of the main tools, I guess. And so for the train bodies, the main things that you will use are extrude, the hole function, and then fillet. Now, and I tell kids all the time, there's more than one way to do this. There's more than one way to create the holes for the axle pegs. There's more than one way to create the holes for the cow catcher that will go on the front. But these are what I'm going to show you is the way that I find easiest. And so, and I tell the kids if they can get it created, then that's the most important thing, if they can get it done. Now, when I give this to students, this is usually the first thing that they will start with. To be honest, they can start with any part that they want, but this is usually the first one they try to tackle, and it's kind of intimidating for them. There are a lot of numbers. There's a lot of dimension lines. And I'm showing you this. If you scroll down to the next page, you have another view. There's some stuff that you'll need on the back of the train body. But like I said, it's kind of intimidating. But if they can break it down to things that they can determine and they know for certain, then it makes it a little easier to draw it. So what I always look at first is, what do I know? I know that the base of my train is a rectangle. And so I'm going to just kind of roughly highlight what I'm talking about here. I know the base of this train is a rectangular shape. And then, if you were to think you kind of carve away the rest of the shape away from that, you'll kind of have an idea of how to go about creating the train body. I know my dimensions for that base rectangle. It's 2 inches by 5.5. And so, I know that. There's some of the other things I can't quite determine yet, but I know that the base is 2 inches by 5.5 inches. So I'm going to go into Inventor. I have a standard part file already open. I'm going to start 2D Sketch. Again, I always like to start most things on this XZ plane. That's as if I were building it on a shop plane or shop table, or on the desk in front of me. That's how it would be situated. I'm going to create a 2-point rectangle. I'm going to start at 0, 0. Now, if you hover over 0, 0, it'll turn green. And so I will click and drag. And like I said, this is a 2-point rectangle, so I'm creating one corner, and then I'm clicking and dragging, and I can set the opposite corner. Now, my dimensions right now, you can click and drag, and you can see it changes. The dimensions change. I can use my tab button and tab in between these two. And really and truthfully, it probably doesn't matter which one you make the 2-inch and which one you make the 5.5. I'll go ahead and make this 5.5, and then I will tab, and then so it highlights my other. If you look over here, and it's kind of moving on me, but if you look over there, that is now highlighted. So I'm going to change that to 2, and then I'm going to hit enter. And so now I have a rectangle that is similar to my base, or the same as my base. It's 5.5 inches long, 2 inches tall. And then I'm going to hit escape. And so escape turns off of my tool. You can see my rectangular tool or rectangle tool is highlighted here. Hit escape and it turns it off. Now, if I want to finish this sketch, I'll click the green check mark, finish sketch, and now I'm able to proceed in the 3D model tab. And so if we look at it, we know we have now a profile of the base of the train. We'll scroll down. I know that my train, I don't have a dimension telling me the exact height of my train, but I do have 2 dimensions that I can use to figure it out. And so I need to know the height of the top of my cab here on the back of my train in order to make sure that I have enough material when I extrude, that I have enough material to account for that. And so the top of my train, it is curved. It is a 2.35, and if you notice here, it has a R out next to us. And again, when I talk about this mini train project, this is one of the things that students are learning. They're learning, specifications. They're learning symbols. They're learning things like that. That R stands for radius. And so, essentially that is just the arc or a circle with a 2.35 inch radius. So that is important to know. And then the center of my circle is, and I'll zoom in here. The center of, I have a 2.35 radius for the roof, and then the center point is 0.375. Now, I will also have a hole here on the back with a diameter of 1/4 inch and a depth of 0.5. That is centered at 1 inch and 0.375. But right now, I'm going to make sure that I have, that I'm worried about extruding and getting the plenty of height that I need for me to work with. And so I'm going to go to extrude. Extrude adds or removes material. So I'm going to add, make sure that I have enough material that I can go back and, essentially you can kind of think of it as, you'll come back and remove the excess. And so, I know that I need just under 3 inches total height. And so I'm just going to add, make sure that I have enough. So I'll do 5 inches, enter. And now I have a solid 3D model that I can start, I can start creating the rest of my my train body with, the rest of the shape. And so now I have, I'm going to try to move this drawing tab out of the way. And so now I can create my roof, and I can create the hole here, and then I can create the front profile of my train. And so now once we have a 3D block that we can work with, I can start a sketch on any of these faces. And I'll use my little, I just call it the little cube here, where I can click on it. I can get different faces, different views. I'm going to start on the back view. So, in this view here, we're working off the back. And so I'm going to make sure that I'm on the back. I'll select the back, start 2D sketch, and then I'm going to project geometry. And project geometry, what that allows you to do is reference geometry from a previous sketch. And so I'm going to project geometry. It's referencing what I extruded here and off of sketch 1. And so I'm going to select all 4 sides. You can select individually if you want. I want all 4 sides. And then I'm going to, what I'm going to do first, and it saves a little bit of time, is I'm going to do the hole here for the hitch peg. And then if I do that first, then I can reference that to do the roof. If I did the roof first, then I would have to do this twice. And so I'm going to select the point. You can do a circle. I'm going to select the point. I'm going to, and if I have the geometry referenced, it will click at the center point. So going on my X here, the width, it'll click at 1, and I can tab, and it will take me to the coordinates. So I know the center point is at 1 and 0.375. I will select, hit enter, and then I'm going to finish sketch. I'm going to go to hole, the hole tool, and I know that this hole is 1/4 inch by 1/2 inch deep. And so I will specify, I don't want it threaded, so I'm going to go to simple hole. And then I don't want a seat. I want to specify the distance. So 1/2 inch, and it's 1/4 inch wide. And then I will hit OK. So that gives me my hole for my hitch peg. And then it gives me the diameter and the depth. Now I'm going to come back and start another sketch. I'm going to project geometry. And then I'm just going to create a circle. You can use an arc as well. I'm going to create a circle. It's a lot faster. Now on my drawings here, it's a radius of 2.35. Now my circle my dimension is diameter, so I'm going to do 2.35 times 2, which will give me the diameter. And so now I have a circle, or I'm worried about the arc here at on my profile. Now I always just kind of to keep things nice and clean, I will use trim. I will trim the excess, and then I have my arc. I'll finish sketch, and then I'm going to extrude. And so, now if I have, if I hover over each of these closed profiles, it will highlight them green. Now, green isn't mean that I am adding material. I want to remove. And so I'm going to select, I want to go the entire distance. So I'm going to go 5.5 inches. You can go more. That part doesn't really matter in this instance. And so I'm going to select it. Now I have the profile of the roof of my cab of my train. So now there's a lot more work that we'll need to do, but I have the profile of the train. And so now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to work on the front. The front's probably the most intimidating to a lot of students because there's a lot of numbers and a lot of lines, and they're not real sure on where things are supposed to go. And so I know I have two basic shapes. I have a rectangle and I have a circle. And I know the center of my circle is at 1 and 1.375, and it is a radius of 0.75. And then I have a rectangle that is 2 inches wide by 0.875 inches tall. And so I'm going to start sketch on the front. I'm going to project geometry. I'm going to use a 2-point rectangle. And then I'm going to tab to my height, 0.875. And then my circle, I know it's going to be X is 1. And then 1.375 for the Y. And it is a 3/4 of an inch, 0.75 radius. So I want to multiply that by 2. And now I want the circle and the rectangle to join. So I'm going to trim. I'm going to trim the overlap here. And now I have the profile that I want. I'm going to finish sketch. I'm going to extrude again to remove. Now, in this case, I don't want to go the whole distance. I will remove my cab if I do that. So I need to figure out how wide my cab is. Now, I have my cab is 1.75 inches wide. And now I'm extruding from the front going back. And so I need to find the distance between 5.5 and 1.75. Now, and you've seen me do it already with the diameter. In Venner, you can just do the calculations right in the dimensions here. So I'm going to do 5.5 minus 1.75, hit OK, and it gives me now my cab. It gives me, I guess, what would be the boiler and kind of the front shape of my train. Now, I need to do a few things. I have to do the holes on the front for the cow catcher. So I'm going to start 2D sketch on the front, select the very front of the train. I'm going to put in some points, and I'm just going to kind of randomly place them. And now we can go back and look at our drawings. I know my center, or the top hole, is 0.625 inches high, and it's centered on the at 1 inch. And then my bottom two holes are 0.125 inches from the bottom, and they are 0.375 inches from the side. And so I like to use the dimension tool. Here you can add dimensions pretty quickly, and so you can draw a lot faster using it. And I already know that that is in the center when I placed it. And then add the last couple of dimensions here. Finish sketch. Again, I'm going to do the hole. I use the hole. It will automatically select. So I'm just putting points at my center. I'm putting the center points, and then it will automatically put the holes for me. My holes are 1/8 inch in diameter and 1/8 inch deep. And then all holes are drilled with point angles. That's one of the deals that a lot of students will skip over, but it's important for them to read all the notes. So I'm going to, come here. It is a simple hole, and then the drill point is angled, and then it is 1/8 inch deep, 1/8 inch in diameter. I hit OK, and now I have my 3 holes for the cow catcher. I'm going to do the holes for my axle pegs. Start 2D sketch, project geometry. Again, I'm just going to place points. And like I said, this is, to me, a lot faster than trying to get it exactly where I want it. and before I do that, I want to go back and look. So my hole is 1 inch from the back and a 1/2 inch up for the back hole, and then 4.5 inches to the front hole. And so 1 inch and 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and then it's 4.5 inches from the back. So finish sketch. Now we look closely at these holes. They are 1/4 inch by 20 UNC. That means that this hole is tapped or threaded, and they are 7/8 inch deep. And this times 4 means you can assume that the opposite side is the same. So we'll have 2 holes on this side, 2 holes on the other. We will do it the same way. It's 1/4 inch, but instead of the hole being a simple hole, we're going to click tapped hole, and then we're going to specify our designation here. We'll go to 1/4 inch, quarter inch by 20 UNC, and then the depth is 0.875. Hit OK. And so we have, if you can scroll in, we have threaded holes on that side. We'll do the opposite side. And so now that we've already have those holes in place, all we have to do is project geometry, select our holes, finish sketch, select the hole tool, select our center point, and then, and so now everything had stayed the same in our settings. Hit OK, and we have those holes done. The last thing that we will need to do is our window. So I'm going to start 2D sketch. You can do it on either side. I do it on this because that's where our drawing is. It is a 1 inch circle that is offset 1.75 inches from the bottom and 1/4 inch from the edge. And so a lot of students will miss this flat part here. So you have a circle and then it comes straight back. And so we'll project geometry. I'm gonna, so I know it's 1/4 inch from the back. So I'm gonna do 5.5 minus 1/4 inch, and you can just type it in as well. 1.75, enter, and then it is a 1 inch diameter. But like I said, if we were just to extrude this, you'd have this kind of wedge piece here at the top, and you'll have it at the bottom. So we're going to come from the top, and then I'm going to use trim, and then I'm going to trim. And so now it's kind of a backwards D, but it does have the flat portion there. So extrude, and if you click the wrong thing, you can hit Control, select the profile, and it will remove it. Select the right one. We're going to click and have it flipped, and it's cut. And so now we have our window. I thought that was the last. We do have one left, or two things left. The first one is our hole for our smokestack. And so how we look at our smokestack, we have a hole that is on top of our cylinder, what you would consider the boiler. We can't just click on a cylinder like we do the flat faces. We can't just start 2D sketch on a cylinder or a round shape. You notice we can do it on the flat sides. We can't do it on something that is curved. And so what we'll have to do is we know the height of the top of our cylinder here. It is 1.375 plus 0.75. That gives us the height, and we will have to use a work plane. And if you come to plane here, so you can do offset plane, and then so offset plane, we will come over to our model browser to origin, and then we started on the XZ plane, so we're going to offset from the XZ plane, and so our center point of our circle is 1.375. And then we're going to add the radius, and that will put us, and you can see this work plane moving up, so that will put us right at the very top. And so this work plane is going to allow us to create our hole, or our profile for our hole, and then we will extrude and actually create the hole. But like I said, you can't just start a sketch on a circular or a curved object. So now you can work on this plane just like any other plane. There are other options for planes. One that we use quite a bit is 3-point plane or angled. Those are pretty common ones that I use. But start 2D sketch, I'm going to select the work plane, and you notice in my work browser that plane is over here as work plane 1. And then and one thing I'll show you, if you're needing to work on something and you need to remove some material to see, you can hit F7 and it will cut. So you notice here where my work plane, I cut through the cab. I'll turn it back on. Now, our hole, it is 0.875 inches from the front of our train. It is a 1/2 inch diameter hole, 1/4 inch deep. And so now I will change my view. I'm going to project geometry so I can reference from the front here. And then tab, it's 1, the center point. And you notice, depending on how your drawing's set up, it is going negative. Negative's just this direction. So I'll just do negative 0.875. Hit enter. Diameter of my hole is 1/2 inch. Finish sketch. I will extrude. Now it's one to add. I want to cut, and I only want to go 1/4 inch. So 1/4 inch. Okay. Oh, it still added. I'm going to come back, double click on it, cut, and now we have our hole for our smokestack. Now, if you were to import this into an assembly and leave this work plane visible, it's going to get pretty cluttered and kind of skew your vision, or kind of get in the way. You do not want to delete it out of your model browser, but you can turn it off. So right click, model browser, select or uncheck visibility, it turns it off. You can add it back if you want. And so now we have all the main features of our train body. The last thing in the notes, it's specified, if you scroll down to the second view, round all edges, radius 0.1 except for drilled holes. And so we're going to come to the fillet tool, 0.1, and then we're going to select all of our edges except for our holes. And then we'll be done with our model train, the train body, which is part 1. And so I'll go ahead and finish doing this. And sometimes on this fillet tool, you got to make sure you change your dimensions at the beginning. because if you try to click on some and then change, it doesn't always cooperate. And now I'm going to hit OK, and so you can see that all the corners are rounded now. A couple of other things. If we look at our drawings here, under parts, it specifies that the material is ABS plastic for all parts. And so I'm going to come to my top toolbar. I will scroll up to material, select ABS plastic. Under default, so I'll show you real quick, default or generic. So generic, it has no, Inventor has a lot of different materials in its library, and you can select through any of them, and it will assign those characteristics to that part. Generic, there's nothing to it, but if I go to ABS plastic, I can go to File, iProperties, and Physical, and then I'll update it. It will give me accurate weight. And so once I do this, I assign it materials and I do this. And like I said, you can change materials. Let's change it to mild steel. So mild steel, that part would weigh 5 3/4 pounds. And this is pretty accurate. Now it's not it's probably not always 100%, but it is a pretty accurate on your weight. But you can hit, so you'll have it assigned as the material. And then the last thing is when you save this or your students save it, a couple of things. They need to make sure that they are saving it to a flash drive or external hard drive. And they need to, so the first time you save a part, you'll save as, select, so I have an external hard drive, and I have a ton of folders on it, so I'm going to save it in my folder. I have a folder just for the Inventor files, and then students need to make sure that they are labeling it with something that is accurate on the description. I would label them as the part number and then underscore their first and last name. And so I will, save it as part 1. You can do part 1 train body, but when you have a bunch of kids that are doing this, it is important that they save it in the same place every time. So all parts are saved in the same folder, and it's saved on an external device like a flash drive or external hard drive. That way, if they happen to get on a different computer, they have all their files. And so it's easily accessed. You'll save, and then if I do any work on this or modify it anyway, then all you have to do is click the Save button here at the top of your screen, and it saves. But like I said, that is the train body, so stay tuned for the rest of the parts, and thank you for